Hey all, here at Stories 2. Here we have another disturbing case. This time we bring you Kenneth Lee Myers. This 47-year-old man from South Carolina went on a tragic shooting spree, killing 4 women, including his wife and her twin sister, before taking his own life. What do we know about his background?
It's chilling, isn't it? Myers had a history of violence, and his life leading up to that moment was filled with warning signs. He was known to have been abusive, especially to his ex-girlfriend, Esther Baldwin. Friends and family described him as controlling and erratic. But there was one thing he made clear to authorities. If he snapped, he would hurt people. And that's exactly what happened.
That's a key point. Myers had been venting to a police officer in the past, expressing that if he lost control, he would target certain people. It's heartbreaking that no action was taken to prevent this. He eventually killed his wife, Angela Myers, her mother, Vicky, her twin sister, Tabitha, and his ex, Esther.
Absolutely. It's almost like a tragic, avoidable series of events. And then after the killings, Myers tried to flee in Baldwin's vehicle, leading to a police chase. But it all ended when he took his own life back at the original crime scene.
Right. And after the murders, authorities found that Myers had a hit list. Initially, the target seemed to be just 4 people, but investigators later learned that Myers intended to kill up to 7 people, including 2 drug dealers he believed were responsible for his wife's problems.
This hit list suggests just how deep his anger and obsession ran. And it also paints a picture of a man who had serious delusions. It's interesting to note that Myers had been involved in militia training, which might have further influenced his mental state.
That's right. He even talked about the end of the world, preparing for a collapse. That's a troubling pattern in many spree killings, isn't it? This mix of paranoia, anger, and a sense of being wronged by the world. It's all too familiar, especially when we think about other spree killers who had similar mindsets before their rampages.
Definitely. And it wasn't just his talk about snapping. His violent behavior was escalating over time. At one point, he threatened his best friend and even pointed a gun at his head during a kayaking trip. That's not normal behavior. That's a person spiraling.
And yet, there were no immediate consequences for those threats. In fact, a police officer who knew Myers for years was surprised when the killings happened. He thought Myers had been a loving father and that the financial struggles were the main cause of his breakdown. It's shocking that there wasn't a stronger response to his earlier warnings.
It's a tragic reminder of how important it is to take threats seriously, especially when there's a history of domestic violence. The experts argue that these acts don't happen overnight. There are usually red flags, and in this case, Myers had been showing signs of instability for years.
Absolutely. And in the aftermath of the killings, investigators tried to piece together why it happened. They found that domestic violence and mental health issues were big factors, but they also uncovered that Myers had been hiding in plain sight, often discussing things like his preparedness for societal collapse while maintaining a seemingly normal life.
It's this stark contrast that makes the case so chilling. Myers was both paranoid and violent, yet nobody saw him as a threat until it was too late. His behavior was erratic, but he flew under the radar for so long, which is sadly often the case in similar incidents.
And that's the ultimate tragedy here. The lives lost, the families torn apart. Myers had a history of controlling and isolating the women in his life. The question is, could anyone have done something sooner to prevent this tragedy? Could they have intervened before he took so many innocent lives?
We'll never know for sure, but it's clear that these kinds of situations can escalate quickly. So much could have been different if someone had intervened earlier, if there had been more attention paid to his threats and behaviors.
In the end, what stands out is how a combination of anger, mental health issues, and a disregard for warning signs led to such an awful outcome. We can only hope that stories like this lead to better awareness and preventive measures in the future.
Exactly. Well, that's all for today's episode. Thanks for joining us in this heavy discussion. It's not easy to unpack these kinds of stories, but they're important to understand.
We hope this conversation sparks some reflection on how we can all be more aware of the signs of violence and how we can protect those at risk. Thanks for listening.
This dialogue sticks to the details of Kenneth Myers' tragic actions and the broader implications surrounding them. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments.